The message came on a Tuesday morning. Dr. Eric Miller was drinking his third cup of coffee when the computers at NASA's Deep Space Communications Center began to light up. At first, he thought it was a malfunction. The pattern was too regular, too perfect to be random space noise, but it wasn't coming from any of their probes or satellites. "Get me the director," Eric said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. Now, within hours, the facility was packed with scientists, military personnel, and government officials. Captain Samantha Wright arrived with a team of communication specialists. She walked directly to Eric, her uniform crisp, her expression serious. "Tell me what we know," she said. Eric pointed to the screen. "It's definitely artificial. The signal repeats every 73 seconds. We've ruled out all Earth origins and known space equipment." "So we're not alone," Samantha said, her voice low. "We never were," Eric replied. "But now they're talking to us." It took 3 days to decode the first part of the message. It was a mathematical sequence, followed by simple images, then more complex ones. Finally, there were words, not in English, but in a pattern that their computers could begin to translate. "They call themselves the Galactic Coalition," Eric explained to the emergency meeting of world leaders gathered via video conference. "And they're concerned about us, President." Laura Bennett leaned forward. "Concerned how?" "They say Earth is in contested space and that we're unprotected. They want to help us." General Frank Daniels frowned. "Do we need their help? Are we in danger?" Before Eric could answer, the screens in the room flickered. A new message was coming through stronger than before. This time there were images of ships, large, sleek vessels that were unmistakably not from Earth. "They're coming," Eric said. "They'll be here in 5 days." The world prepared as best it could. There was panic in some places, celebration in others. Religious groups declared it the end times or the beginning of a new age. The stock market crashed, then rebounded when people realized money might still matter. When the alien ships arrived, they did not descend to Earth. They positioned themselves in orbit, 3 massive vessels shaped like smooth teardrops, glowing with soft blue light. "We come in peace," came the translated message. "We request a meeting with your leaders." The meeting was set for neutral ground, an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. President Bennett would attend, along with leaders from China, Russia, India, and the European Union. Eric and Samantha were included as part of the scientific and military contingent. The alien delegation arrived in a smaller craft that hovered above the carrier deck before gently landing. When the door opened, Samantha's hand instinctively moved toward her weapon. The aliens were not what anyone expected. They stood on 2 legs but were slender and tall, with skin that shimmered slightly in the sunlight. Their faces had 2 large eyes, no visible nose, and small mouths. They moved with careful, deliberate steps. "I am High Commander Zixvar," the leader said, their words translated through a device around what might be their neck. "We bring greetings from the Galactic Coalition of 3,000 worlds." President Bennett stepped forward. "I am Laura Bennett, President of the United States. We welcome you to Earth." The meeting moved to the carrier's conference room. Maps of the galaxy were projected on screens, showing Earth at the edge of what the aliens called protected space. "Your world exists in a dangerous region," Zixvar explained. "We are surprised. You have survived this long without oversight." "We've managed just fine," General Daniels said, his voice containing a hint of pride. The alien made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "You have been fortunate. The void has not yet found you." "The void?" Eric asked. "An aggressive force that consumes worlds. We have contained them for centuries, but they grow stronger. We offer Earth membership in our coalition. We will provide technology, knowledge, and protection." "And what do you want in return?" Samantha asked. Zixvar turned to her, and she could have sworn the alien flinched slightly at her direct gaze. "Only reasonable cooperation. Resources, some bases on your world, and perhaps some of your people to join our defense forces." President Bennett nodded diplomatically. "We need time to consider your offer." "Of course," the alien leader said. We will remain in orbit while you decide. After the meeting, as the alien delegation returned to their ship, Eric pulled Samantha aside. Did you notice anything strange? He asked. Samantha nodded. They seemed nervous, almost afraid. Of us? Why would an advanced civilization fear humans? I don't know, she said, but I intend to find out. In the days that followed, more coalition representatives arrived. They established a temporary base in Geneva, Switzerland. They shared limited technology, medical advances, cleaner energy methods, more efficient farming techniques. But they were careful about what they revealed. Eric spent hours studying the aliens, learning their language, observing their behavior. He noticed they always kept distance from humans. They wore what appeared to be environmental suits, claiming Earth's atmosphere had impurities their systems couldn't handle. Samantha, meanwhile, focused on their ships and weapons. The aliens showed defensive systems but were vague about offensive capabilities. They spoke of protection but avoided details about actual conflicts with the Void. 1 week after first contact, Eric was granted access to the Coalition's database of known species. As he browsed the information, he noticed Earth was classified as a Class X anomaly. That night, he met Samantha at a secure location away from listening devices. They're hiding something, he said, showing her his findings. Earth is the only Class X world in their database. What does that mean? She asked. I don't know. But I found other references to humans specifically. Medical scans they've been taking without our knowledge. They seem particularly interested in our physical strength and endurance. Samantha frowned. You think they're afraid of us physically? That doesn't make sense. They have technology centuries beyond ours. Technology isn't everything, Eric said. Remember, evolution takes different paths on different worlds. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert on Samantha's phone. Coalition ships were deploying satellites around Earth without permission. They're moving too fast, she said, before we've even agreed to join them. Or they're preparing for something they're not telling us about, Eric added. President Bennett called an emergency meeting with coalition representatives. The aliens apologized for the misunderstanding about the satellites, claiming they were merely defensive measures. But as Samantha and Eric listened to their explanations, they shared a look of understanding. The aliens weren't telling the whole truth. Earth wasn't being offered protection because the coalition was generous. Earth was being prepared for something else entirely, and they needed to discover what before it was too late. The coalition moved quickly. Within 2 weeks of first contact, they had established outposts in 12 countries. They called them monitoring stations, necessary for Earth's protection. Each one was staffed with alien personnel and surrounded by security measures that kept humans at a distance. Dr. Eric Miller didn't like it. He sat in his office at NASA, reviewing the limited data the coalition had shared about galactic threats. Something didn't add up. The math is wrong, he said to himself, comparing their star charts with Earth observations. They're exaggerating the threat zones. His phone rang. It was Captain Samantha Wright. Can you meet me? She asked, her voice tight. I found something. They met at a diner 30 miles from the nearest coalition outpost. Samantha brought Lieutenant John Garrison, a quiet man with sharp eyes who worked in military intelligence. John managed to get inside the Denver outpost, Samantha explained once they were seated in a corner booth. Eric raised his eyebrows. How? Their security is focused on keeping humans out, not on tracking us once we're in, John said. They don't expect us to get past their outer barriers, but they underestimated how small spaces humans can squeeze through. He placed a small device on the table and tapped it. A hologram appeared showing alien text and images. I copied parts of their database, John continued. Most is encrypted, but we found these classified reports. Eric leaned forward, reading the translated text. Class X anomaly, potential resource, high-risk assessment. They're talking about Earth, Samantha said. And look at this. The image changed to show footage of alien ships retreating from battle. Dark, shapeless forms pursued them, tearing through their defenses. The Void? Eric asked. John nodded. But here's the interesting part. These battles took place in our sector of space just 3 years ago. The Coalition lost ground. They're not offering us protection because they're generous. They're setting up Earth as a buffer zone. Eric sat back, his mind racing. That explains why they're in such a hurry to establish outposts. They're preparing for war, not first contact. There's more, Samantha said. Show him the medical reports, John. The display changed again, showing what appeared to be comparative anatomy charts. Human figures stood alongside various alien forms. They've been studying us, John explained. Running tests without our knowledge. Blood samples, tissue analysis, strength measurements. They're particularly interested in our bone density, muscle mass, and endurance levels. Eric studied the charts. According to this, humans are physically stronger than most Coalition species, significantly stronger. And more durable, Samantha added. We can withstand more G-force radiation and physical trauma than they can. They find it disturbing. Eric thought about how the aliens always maintained distance from humans, how they seemed nervous during direct interactions. It wasn't caution about Earth diseases. It was fear. They're afraid of us, he said. Physically, afraid, which makes us valuable, John said. They want human soldiers to fight the void. Samantha nodded grimly. Cannon fodder. The next day, Eric requested access to the Coalition's science vessel that had arrived in Earth orbit. His status as lead human scientist granted him permission, though he noticed his alien escorts kept more distance than usual. The ship was impressive, smooth corridors, artificial gravity, and technology far beyond anything on Earth. But Eric wasn't there for a tour. He was looking for information. I'd like to see your biological research facilities, he told his guide, a Coalition scientist named Nira. To understand how we might collaborate. Nira hesitated. Such areas are restricted. Then how can we work together? Eric asked. Innocently. President Bennett specifically asked me to explore scientific cooperation opportunities. The mention of Earth's leadership seemed to sway the alien. They proceeded to a laboratory where several Coalition scientists were analyzing data. The room went quiet when Eric entered. On screens around the lab, he saw human medical scans, muscle, tissue samples, and what appeared to be endurance test results. Fascinating research, Eric said, pretending not to notice the discomfort in the room. What have you learned about human biology? After an uncomfortable silence, one scientist spoke. Your species is unusual. You evolved from predators yet developed high intelligence. Is that rare? Eric asked. Very, Nira said. Most spacefaring species evolved from herbivores or omnivores with minimal predatory instincts. Predator species rarely develop the cooperation necessary for advanced civilization. Eric nodded, filing away this valuable information. And physically, another scientist responded. Your strength-to-weight ratio exceeds Coalition averages by 35%. Your endurance, pain tolerance, and radiation resistance are similarly elevated. You heal faster than 89% of known species. Is that why you keep your distance from us? Eric asked directly. The room fell silent again. Nira finally answered. We are cautious by nature. Back on Earth, Samantha and John had made progress of their own. They had intercepted and decrypted more Coalition communications. They're lying about the void, Samantha told Eric when they reconnected. It's not some mindless force consuming worlds. It's another alliance of species fighting against Coalition control. So this is about territory, Eric said, not protection. Exactly. And they want to use Earth as both a shield and a source of soldiers. They've been assessing our military capabilities, our resources, our population. That evening, they presented their findings to a secret committee of government, military, and scientific leaders. President Bennett listened silently until they finished. Recommendations? She finally asked. General Daniels spoke first. We play along. Let them think we're considering their offer while we prepare our defenses. I agree, Eric said. They're underestimating us because we're technologically behind them. but they fear our physical capabilities. That gives us an advantage they don't expect. And we need to learn more about the Void, Samantha added. The Coalition isn't telling us the truth. We need all the facts before we choose a side in their war. President Bennett nodded. Proceed carefully. Dr. Miller, continue your research. Captain Wright, expand your intelligence gathering. If the Coalition wants to use Earth as a weapon, they need to understand that weapons can turn against those who wield them. As the meeting concluded, a new message arrived from Coalition Command. They were requesting a joint training exercise with human military forces to demonstrate cooperation and test compatibility. They want to see us in action, Samantha said, reading the message, to confirm their theories about human combat potential. Then let's give them a demonstration, General Daniels replied with a thin smile. But not quite the one they're expecting. The game had changed. The aliens had come offering protection to a world they thought was weak and vulnerable. Now they would learn why Earth had survived without their help for so long. The day of the joint training exercise arrived 3 weeks after the Coalition's request. Captain Samantha Wright, now promoted to Major, stood on the deck of the USS Liberty, watching Coalition officers inspect the human soldiers lined up for the demonstration. The aliens moved cautiously, keeping their distance as they observed the men and women of Earth's Special Forces. Sub-Admiral Nexil, the Coalition commander, approached Samantha with what she now recognized as nervous respect. Your warriors appear adequate, Nexil said, the translation device at his throat pulsing with blue light. Though they seem small, compared to our combat units. Samantha smiled. Size isn't everything, Sub-Admiral. Before Nexil could respond, alarms blared across the ship. A Coalition officer rushed toward them, his movements quick and agitated. Sub-Admiral, our sensors detect a Void Scout vessel entering the system. It will reach Earth orbit in 6 hours. Nexil's skin paled to an almost white shade. We must evacuate our personnel immediately. It is standard procedure when encountering Void forces in unprotected space. You're running away? Samantha asked, her voice sharp. I thought you came to protect us. This is merely a scout, Nexil explained hurriedly. Our response must be measured. We will return with proper forces once. Let us join you, Samantha interrupted. A small human contingent. Consider it part of our training. Nexil hesitated, his large eyes blinking rapidly. It would be irregular. You have no experience with space combat. Then we'll observe. Learn how you handle these situations. After a brief communication with his superiors, Nexil reluctantly agreed. Samantha quickly selected her team, Lieutenant John Garrison and Corporal Lisa Rodriguez, a Marine with exceptional combat scores. 2 hours later, they boarded the Coalition vessel. The ship was sleek and efficient, but Samantha noticed immediately that it had none of the redundant systems or battle damage controls that human military vessels would have. Everything was designed for optimal function with minimal crew. You will remain on the command deck, Nexil instructed. Observe only. Do not interfere with operations. Samantha nodded, but exchanged knowing glances with Garrison and Rodriguez. They had their own plans. The Coalition ship accelerated to meet the Void Scout before it could reach Earth. Sub-Admiral Nexil seemed confident now that they were away from the planet. The Scout is likely gathering intelligence, he explained, to the humans. We will drive it away with minimal engagement. Dr. Eric Miller watched from Earth, monitoring communications from both ships. President Bennett stood beside him in the secure command center. They're keeping us in the dark, Eric said, filtering what our people can see and hear. Can you bypass their systems? The president asked. Eric nodded. Working on it now. Their technology is advanced, but their encryption is designed to keep other Coalition species out, not humans specifically. On the Coalition ship, the encounter with the Void Scout began as expected. The alien vessel was dark and angular, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. It made no response to Coalition hails. Standard Void tactics, Nexil explained. We will fire warning shots to establish dominance, then. He never finished his sentence. The Void ship suddenly accelerated, launching what appeared to be energy weapons at the Coalition vessel. The ship rocked violently. Direct hit to our primary systems, a coalition officer shouted. Power fluctuations in all sectors. Nexil froze, his command staff equally stunned by the unexpected attack. This is not standard behavior for a scout vessel. Another hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across the command deck. Smoke began pouring from control panels. They're not following your playbook, Samantha said, steadying herself against a wall. What's your backup plan? Nexil had no answer. His crew was panicking, some abandoning their posts as systems failed around them. Samantha looked at Garrison and Rodriguez. Time to observe more closely. They moved quickly, taking control of abandoned stations. Rodriguez accessed the weapon systems, while Garrison analyzed the damage reports. Samantha positioned herself at what appeared to be a tactical HFY display. Your main power coupling is severed, Garrison called out. Reroute through the secondary grid. Nexil stared in shock. How do you know our systems? We've been studying your technology, Samantha replied. Just like you've been studying us. Rodriguez worked the weapons console with surprising skill. Your targeting system is overthinking the problem. The Void ship has a pattern. Simple, predictable movements. She fired the coalition weapons, hitting the Void vessel directly. The enemy ship shuddered and pulled back. Meanwhile, Samantha had identified the Void's attack strategy. They're not trying to destroy you. They're testing your defenses, looking for weak points. Classic predator behavior. Predator? Nexil repeated, his voice shaking. You speak as if I understand how they think? Samantha finished for him. I do, because humans think the same way. The battle continued for nearly an hour. What should have been a simple encounter turned into a serious engagement. 3 coalition crew members were injured when a control panel exploded, exposing them to radiation that their bodies couldn't handle. To Nexil's amazement, the humans showed no fear of the radiation. Rodriguez worked directly in the affected area, refusing protective gear that would slow her down. The radiation levels are within human tolerance, she explained when questioned. We evolved on a planet with higher background radiation than most coalition worlds. With the humans' help, the coalition ship eventually drove off the Void Scout. The victory came at a cost. Significant damage to the vessel and several injured crew members. But it was a victory nonetheless. As the ship limped back toward Earth, Nexil approached Samantha and her team. Your assistance was unexpected, he admitted, and your methods unorthodox. But effective, Samantha pointed out. Yes. Nexil seemed troubled. You function well under stress. You take risks our species would avoid. You exposed yourselves to radiation levels that would kill most coalition species. It's how we survived on Earth, Garrison explained. Adaptability, quick thinking, taking calculated risks. Back on Earth, Eric had successfully broken through the coalition's information filters. He and President Bennett had witnessed the entire encounter. They didn't expect that, the president said, watching the coalition ship approach Earth once more. They thought they were recruiting cannon fodder. Instead, they found wolves. Eric nodded, and now they're afraid of what they've discovered. That night, Coalition High Command held an emergency meeting in orbit. They didn't know that Eric had access to their communications now, that he could hear every word. The humans exceed all combat projections, a coalition general reported. Their reaction time, radiation resistance, and adaptability are unprecedented. This changes our strategy, another voice said. They are not merely resources to be used against the Void. They are potential threats themselves. We must reconsider our approach to Earth, High Commander Zixvar concluded. These humans are more dangerous than we realized. Eric listened carefully, recording everything. The truth was finally emerging. The Coalition hadn't come to protect Earth. They had come to use it. And now they were beginning to realize their mistake. Word spread quickly through the Coalition fleet about the human performance during the Void encounter. Major Samantha Wright and her team returned to Earth as heroes. But she felt uneasy about the way the alien officers now watched them, with a mixture of respect and fear. Dr. Eric Miller worked tirelessly in his lab, analyzing the data he had intercepted from Coalition communications. He recruited Kevin Hayes, a brilliant programmer from the NSA, to help decode the more complex transmissions. "I've never seen encryption like this," Kevin said, his fingers moving rapidly across his keyboard. "It's like they're thinking in 3 dimensions while we think in 2. "But you can break it?" Eric asked. Kevin smiled. "Already did. They're smart, but they didn't design their security to keep out humans specifically." The decoded messages revealed more than Eric had hoped for. The Coalition had been discussing Earth in much more detail than they admitted publicly. "Look at this classification," Eric said, pointing to a section of text. "They've labeled humans as an apex predator species. There's a warning attached to all reports about us." Kevin read the translation. "Caution, unpredictable behaviors, high aggression potential, extreme environmental adaptability. They make us sound dangerous." "To them we are," Eric replied. "Most Coalition species evolved from herbivores or non-aggressive omnivores. Their records show very few predator species ever developed spacefaring technology. Why not? Predators tend to be territorial, competitive, more focused on immediate gains than long-term planning. At least that's how they see it." Eric scrolled through more data. According to this, only 8 predator species have joined the Coalition and all are heavily restricted. Kevin whistled. "So we're rare." "We're unique," Eric corrected. "Look at these physical comparison charts. Humans have higher bone density, more efficient oxygen use, better temperature regulation, and faster healing than 94% of Coalition species." "That can't be right," Kevin said. "We're not that special." "It's all relative. Earth has higher gravity than most habitable worlds, more radiation, more climate variation, more pathogens. We evolved to survive in what the Coalition considers extreme conditions." Eric continued scrolling through the data. "Their scientists are amazed by things we take for granted. Our ability to run long distances, our pain tolerance, how we can function despite sleep deprivation or injury. So when Major Wright and her team kept fighting after that radiation exposure, it confirmed their worst fears about us," Eric finished. "What we consider normal, they consider terrifying." Later that day, Eric met with Major Wright and President Bennett to share his findings. The meeting took place in a secure room swept for listening devices. "They've been keeping this information secret even from their own citizens," Eric explained. "Most Coalition species have no idea humans are physically superior to them." "Why the secrecy?" President Bennett asked. "Fear of panic," Samantha suggested. "Imagine learning that a new species that's stronger, tougher, and more aggressive than you just joined the galactic community." Eric nodded. "Exactly. And there's more. The Coalition isn't a peaceful federation of worlds. It's an empire. The herbivore species at the top maintain control through technology and numbers. They don't fight their own battles. They find others to do it for them," Samantha said. "Like us. And the void isn't a mindless force," Eric continued. "It's a coalition of species fighting against Coalition control. Their consuming worlds is actually liberation in some cases." President Bennett leaned back in her chair. "So we're caught between 2 sides in a galactic war we didn't know existed. And both sides now want us for the same reason," Eric added. "Our combat potential." The president looked grim. "Options? We need more information about the void," Samantha said. "Before we pick a side, we should know what both are truly offering." "Agreed," Bennett replied. "But we also need to prepare for the possibility that neither side has Earth's best interests at heart." As the meeting concluded, an aide rushed in with urgent news. Coalition ships were moving, repositioning themselves around Earth. More were arriving daily. "They're not waiting for our decision anymore," Samantha observed. "They're getting ready for something." That evening, Eric received a secure message from Nira, the Coalition scientist he had met on their research vessel. The message was sent through channels outside official Coalition communications. "Human scientist," the message read. "I risk much to send this. You must know the truth. The Coalition High Command fears what they have discovered about your species. They debate whether Earth is too dangerous to include in our alliance. Some suggest more drastic measures. Eric immediately forwarded the message to Samantha and the President. Within an hour, Earth's military forces were placed on high alert. In space, the Coalition fleet continued to grow. 17 ships now orbited Earth, their weapons not pointed at the planet, but positioned where they could fire quickly if needed. Samantha organized training exercises, pushing human soldiers to demonstrate their capabilities while Coalition observers watched. She wanted them to see exactly what humans could do. "We need to make them hesitate," she explained to her commanders. "Show them we're not easy prey." Eric, meanwhile, worked with Kevin to access more Coalition databases. They discovered detailed studies of Earth's military history, analyses of human warfare that labeled Earth as exceptionally conflict-prone. "They're studying our wars," Eric told Samantha. "They seem particularly disturbed by how quickly we advanced from swords to nuclear weapons." "What frightens them most?" she asked. "Our adaptability," Eric replied. "The fact that humans can learn to use alien technology so quickly, that we can improvise weapons from almost anything, that we keep fighting despite injuries that would incapacitate their species." Samantha nodded thoughtfully. "Then we use their fear to our advantage." The next day, she requested a meeting with Sub-Admiral Nexel. They met on the deck of an aircraft carrier, the sea breeze ruffling Samantha's uniform as Nexel kept his customary distance. "My superiors are concerned about the growing Coalition presence in Earth orbit," Samantha said directly. "It seems less like protection and more like preparation for action against us." Nexel's skin paled slightly. "We simply ensure your safety." "Then, perhaps you could explain these," Samantha said, producing copies of the intercepted communications discussing drastic measures against Earth. Nexel's large eyes widened. "How did you—" "We have capabilities you've underestimated," Samantha interrupted. "Just as you've underestimated our awareness of what's happening." She stepped closer, noting how Nexel instinctively moved back. "Let me be clear, Sub-Admiral. Earth did not need Coalition protection before we knew about you, and we do not need it now. We are not your soldiers to command, nor your problem to solve." "What are you saying, Major Wright?" "I'm saying that the Coalition should reconsider how it approaches Earth, as equals, not as resources." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "After all, you've seen what humans can do when threatened." As Nexel departed, visibly shaken, Samantha knew the message would reach Coalition High Command quickly. The game was changing. Earth was no longer just responding to alien decisions. They were making demands of their own. The warning came at dawn. Coalition sensors detected a massive fleet entering the solar system. Not a scout vessel this time, but a full invasion force of void ships, dark and menacing against the stars. Dr. Eric Miller was woken by the emergency, alert. He rushed to the command center where President Bennett and military leaders had already gathered. "Coalition High Command is requesting an emergency meeting," an aide announced. Minutes later, the holographic image of High Commander HFY appeared before them. The alien leader's usual calm was gone, replaced by visible anxiety. "A void armada approaches," HFY said without preamble. "Larger than any we have encountered. Our forces are outnumbered." "What are you suggesting?" President Bennett asked. "We must withdraw our ships to protect Coalition core worlds. We recommend Earth prepare for possible void contact." Major Samantha Wright stepped forward. "You're abandoning us." It wasn't a question, and HFY didn't deny it. "We will return with reinforcements when possible." "When possible?" General Daniels repeated with disgust. "You came here offering protection, and now you're running at the first sign of real danger." HFY's image flickered. "The situation has changed. The Void Fleet will reach Earth in 12 hours. Our ships will depart in 2. After the transmission ended, silence filled the room. Then President Bennett turned to her advisors. "Options?" Eric spoke first. "The Coalition is showing its true colors. They never intended to protect Earth, only to use us." "Can we fight the Void ourselves?" Bennett asked. General Daniels shook his head. Not directly. We have no space combat capabilities that could stop that many ships. Samantha had been studying the tactical displays. We might not need to stop them all. Coalition intelligence suggests the Void Fleet has a command structure. Take out their leaders and the rest might retreat. But how? Eric asked. Samantha turned to him, a determined look in her eyes. We have 10 hours before the Coalition leaves. That's 10 hours to learn everything we can from their technology. Eric nodded, understanding immediately. And we know humans can adapt to alien tech faster than they expect. President Bennett made the decision. Do it. Whatever you need, you have it. The next hours were a flurry of activity. Eric and Kevin Hayes worked with Coalition scientists, some willing to help, others reluctant. Samantha and John Garrison studied void combat tactics from Coalition records. Earth's military forces mobilized globally. With just 1 hour before the Coalition departure, Eric presented their plan to President Bennett and the military command. We can't match their numbers, he explained, but we've modified several Coalition shuttlecraft. They've agreed to leave them behind. Agreed or been convinced? General Daniels asked with a slight smile. Let's say they saw the wisdom in cooperation, Samantha replied. The shuttles have been enhanced with human control systems. We've also adapted some of their weapons technology to our aircraft. The key is their targeting systems, Eric continued. Coalition weapons are designed to attack in specific patterns, predictable, logical. But void ships move irregularly, making them hard targets. So we're changing the system, Kevin added, making it more human, intuitive rather than programmed. President Bennett looked skeptical. And this will work? The Coalition doesn't think so, Samantha said. They believe we're doomed. But they don't understand human unpredictability. That's our advantage. As the Coalition ships prepared to leave, Samantha led a team of pilots to the modified shuttles. Corporal Lisa Rodriguez and Lieutenant John Garrison were among the volunteers. The controls are simplified, Eric explained, as they boarded. We've made them respond more like aircraft. Trust your instincts. From the command center, Eric and President Bennett watched as the Coalition fleet jumped away, leaving Earth to face the void alone. Only 3 Coalition scientists remained behind, including Nira, who had chosen to stay and help. Your people are brave, Nira told Eric as they monitored the approaching void fleet. But the odds are impossibly high. Eric smiled. Humans have a long history of beating impossible odds. The void arrived exactly as predicted, 57 ships, their surfaces seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved into position around Earth, ignoring the few human vessels that rose to meet them. They're not even considering us a threat, Samantha reported from her shuttle. Just as we expected. Earth's defense consisted of 20 modified shuttles and 40 fighter jets equipped with adapted Coalition weapons. Against 57 massive war vessels, it seemed like nothing. Then Samantha gave the order. Execute Plan Trojan, now. The human vessels scattered, not engaging directly but targeting specific points on the largest void ship, what Coalition intelligence identified as the command vessel. The void defenses were slow to respond, clearly not viewing the small craft as significant threats. That was their mistake. The modified weapons didn't fire in predictable patterns. They adjusted continuously, guided by human pilots who improvised, who took risks no Coalition pilot would consider. From his shuttle, John Garrison targeted the command ship's communication array. They're scrambling now, he reported. Their response time is slower than we expected. Keep pressing, Samantha ordered. Don't give them time to adapt. On the ground, Nira watched in amazement as the human pilots performed maneuvers that Coalition simulations had deemed impossible. They pushed the shuttles beyond design limits, accepting damage that would have caused Coalition pilots to retreat. They don't stop, she whispered to Eric. Even when hit, they continue fighting. That's humanity, Eric replied simply. The battle reached its peak when Lisa Rodriguez's shuttle took a direct hit. Systems failing, she aimed her damaged vessel directly at the Void command ship's main weapon array. Rodriguez, pull back, Samantha ordered. Negative, came the calm reply. I can make this count. Her shuttle crashed into the void vessel, triggering a chain reaction that disabled its main weapons. In that moment of vulnerability, the remaining human forces concentrated their attack. The void command ship began to break apart. The rest of their fleet, suddenly disorganized, pulled back from Earth. Victory came at a cost. 8 shuttles lost, 15 pilots dead or injured, but Earth remained free. 3 days later, the Coalition fleet returned with reinforcements, prepared for a prolonged battle. They found instead a planet celebrating victory and salvaging void technology. High Commander Zixvar requested an immediate meeting with Earth's leaders. This time, the Coalition representatives came to the White House, where President Bennett received them with cool formality. We are impressed by Earth's survival, Zixvar admitted. Such an outcome was deemed statistically impossible. Perhaps your statistics failed to account for human determination, Bennett replied. Indeed. The alien commander seemed uncomfortable. In light of recent events, we wish to revise our offer of Coalition membership. Earth would join as a full partner, with equal standing. Samantha, standing beside the president, caught Eric's eye across the room. They both recognized what had happened. The balance of power had shifted. Earth was no longer seen as a primitive world needing protection. It was a force to be reckoned with, a planet of apex predators who had succeeded where the mighty Coalition had expected failure. We'll consider your offer, President Bennett said, but on our terms, not yours. As the meeting concluded, Eric overheard 2 Coalition officers speaking quietly. They defeated a void fleet with primitive technology and modified shuttles, one said. Imagine what they'll do with access to our full technology. The universe will never be the same, the other replied. Eric smiled to himself. They had finally learned the truth about Earth. Humans didn't need protection. The galaxy needed protection from them.